Let us pray. Gracious Father, we thank you for this opportunity that we have to gather here to worship you. We thank you that you are there for us, that you care for us, and that your plans are better than our plans, and the hope that you have is greater than anything we can provide for ourselves. I pray that the words that I speak may not be mine, but they may be yours, ever edifying and glorifying to you. Amen. I found it pretty interesting when I did my reading from Ezekiel from the commentary that I read, is that, we sang the song Dem Bones, and it teaches you some parts of the body, and you get to dance around. And the thing about Ezekiel that I found interesting from there was that kids were not originally allowed to read Ezekiel. As a matter of fact, what the Jewish leaders said was that no one under 30 should read it. So Ezekiel is not one that you need to jump in right away, but to wait until you're a little bit more mature to be able to read it so that you can understand it a little bit better. It's pretty interesting that there's a kid's song that comes out. But we have several things that we can learn from this passage of the dry bones. The first of it is that in the valley of the dry bones, there is hope. God asked Ezekiel, can these bones live? And what we have to remember is what the context of this is, what's happening in Ezekiel. The kingdom of Judah, after the reign of Josiah, was threatened by invading countries, and Zedekiah, if you remember him I preached on him this summer when he talked to Jeremiah, and he put Jeremiah for saying, hey, if you don't change what you're doing, you're going to be in exile. And so what does he do? He puts Jeremiah in prison for sedition, for speaking against what he is doing. And of course, what happens is he chooses not to do things God's way, and they are in exile. So because of the decisions of Zedekiah, this failure of Zedekiah, all of Judah is in exile, and they feel despair. So this is several years later after Jeremiah gives his prophecy. Zedekiah fails, they're in exile, and there's not much hope. So Ezekiel responds to God. He says, you know, can these bones live? You know. And God tells him to prophesy. I should leave my PowerPoint for it. There we go. So Ezekiel prophesies, and then as he prophesies, the bones come together, and they create a structure of bone, and then the muscle attaches onto the bone, and then the skin. So they're still dead. They have a form again. They're not scattered. They're not separate. But they're a form. But hope is not found in a structure. Hope is not found in a body. So then Ezekiel, and that's what Ezekiel does. It's like, hey, they're not alive. What's different? What do we need to do? And Ezekiel then prophesies to the breath. And because of the breath, both Israel and we have hope. Because we do not have life in a structure, we have life in the Spirit. The same word for wind and breath is also the same word for spirit. The Hebrew word is raush, which if you read Ted Decker, he uses that for some of his creatures that he has in the book. The spirits that watch over people, the raush. And so only through that breath do we have life, because, with Jesus, when he died, when he breathed his last, and we breathe our last, then life is brought back through the breath. In the valley of the dry bones, God has a plan. It's not just simply, you're going to be alive, boom, with nothing ahead of you. But first off, there are three things to dry bones. They're not zombies. They're not a skeleton horde. And as the writer of the commentary I looked at points out, it's not the proof text for the resurrection. John 11 is, but Ezekiel 37 is not. Because this is a demonstration of what will happen to Israel. Remember, the thing about this is that these people who were in exile, they heard from Isaiah. Isaiah said 70 years. So if they had been listening and they had been paying attention, they would know that there was an end. But even when we know that, when we're in it, is that easy to remember? Is that easy to live by? All hope seems lost. They're a valley of dry bones. All hope is gone to them, they think. But what are the dry bones? The dry bones are God's people. Zedekiah failed. Our national church leaders have failed. Things are challenging for us because of other people's decisions. Because of the culture. The culture, and we have people who want to say, hey, it's what the culture says, it's the way it should be. That's not what God is calling us to. He's not calling us to a line that's just equal to culture. He's calling us above culture. He's calling us above the people. He's calling us to be better than Zedekiah. He's calling us to be better and to point towards the best. Secondly, the dry bones are a launching point for God's plan, for God's people. He calls us to trust Him. It's a launching point for God's plan. We see that it's not just simply, bones, here you are. We look at verse 11. It says, Son of man, the bones of the whole house of Israel. They say, our bones are dried up, and our hope is gone. We are cut off. They prophesy and say to them, this is what the sovereign Lord says, O my people, I am going to open your graves and bring you back from them. I will bring you back to the land of Israel. Then you, my people, will know that I am the Lord, when I open your graves and bring you up from them. I will put my spirit in you, and you will live, and I will settle you in your own land. Then you will know that I, the Lord, have spoken, and I have done it, declares the Lord. And what we know is that's not the end of it either. That there's more. That there is more beyond that. We'll talk about that in a second. Also, the dry bones is a demonstration of God's sovereignty. He does not do this because of anything anybody in exile has done. He hasn't done it for the sake of Hananiah, Azariah, and Mishael, Shadrach, and Meshach. He did not do it for the sake of Daniel. He did it for his sake. Because he made a promise. He made a promise through Isaiah. He made a promise through Jeremiah. He made a promise through Moses. He made a promise through Noah. He made a promise through Abraham. He made a promise through David. He has these covenant promises that I will be with you, but it doesn't mean we won't have hard times. And as Jesus says later on, as a matter of fact, you will be persecuted because of me. The promise is not just for good times. The promise is for hope. And the promise is to know that God has a plan. God takes care of us for His glory and for His name's sake. So God brings life where there is death. And where does this life come from? This additional plan, how is this going to work out from this point on? Well, that's in Romans. Life comes from Jesus, from the inside. It said there, we can admire God's work and miss God. And I thought that I was just reading Augustine's Confessions, and I thought that this really captured this really well. I had my back to the light, and my face toward the things which are illuminated. So my face, by which I was enabled to see the things lit up, was not itself illuminated. Let me read that one more time. I had my back to the light, and my face toward the things which are illuminated. So my face, by which I was enabled to see the things lit up, was not itself illuminated. So what Augustine was saying is that he was seeing the work of God in creation. And some people call this general revelation. God revealing Himself to us through His creation. And so he saw those things lit up. But all he was seeing was the things. It's like there's so many people who can read Jesus in the Gospels and all they see is just the miracles. He raised Lazarus from the dead. Awesome, that's amazing. I wonder how He did that. and miss the fact that he did it so that God could be glorified. And he did it so that people could see who he is and that resurrection was possible. Because later on, in another 10 chapters, he himself is going to be resurrected from the dead for a much greater purpose than to die again, but to be raised to eternal life and to give us hope. That's the end of the plan from Ezekiel. Not only are they going to come back to the land of Israel, not only are they going to be in their land, but there is a hope which was clear back in the covenant to Abraham that all people will come to me through you, through Isaac and Jacob, Israel, David, Jesus. It all leads up to Jesus. It all leads up to hope. And so Augustine realized that before his confession, before his belief, that he saw these things, but he was missing something so much greater because his focus was in the wrong place. And that's where our focus needs to move towards, is the right place. When we literally turn around to confess, to turn around from the wrong way, from our way of life, from our way of seeing things, when we serve God, we change who we serve. That's this passage from Romans. Before you were slaves to sin, but now you are slaves to obedience, which leads to righteousness. To do the things that are right, to be considered right before God. Literally being able to stand before his presence. And although this is a limited, as he says himself, a limited way of looking at this changing of servanthood, this changing of being a slave, that this is how we can try to explain it. And that literally is what's happening. As I've said before, our change is a change in ourselves of who we are. From being egocentric, focused on ourselves, being in a me culture, it makes perfect sense, to be focused on ourselves, to being theocentric, where all of our focus and all of our aspirations are toward God. We are all called to share our faith or to witness. We have books that are available to help people to learn gospel, God, our sin paying everyone life, to help us to have a way to, in a biblical, theological way, to be able to explain to people what faith in Jesus Christ is about and why we need it. But our witness is more than that, not more than just our words. It's also our actions and how people see us live our lives. See the difference between the people in Israel during the time where they're being exiled and the people in the time of Jesus who are looking for hope was a change in that egocentric life and that theocentric life. And that is the difference between us and others, and the hope that we need to show to others. Our witness is a process. It's a process called sanctification. And that's where you change from the inside out to become holy, because it's not something that we can do ourselves. It's not a wage that we earn. What's the wage we earn? It's death. But the gift that we receive is that change in us. It's a process. It's not overnight. It's not overnight that we are able to hear the hope of the gospel and to have a changed life. To be holy. To be set apart. That's what holy literally is. To be set apart and to live a life that people can see is set apart. It's a process. And that's the hope for us. Because we can often be like, why do we keep messing up? It's because we're people. But we pray. We ask for hope. We ask for help. The thing about the Valley of the Dry Bones is it was a place where the people of Judah chose to go because they were embracing sin. They chose to go. Zedekiah, as a matter of fact, threw Jeremiah in prison because he was so convinced that his way was right and he didn't have to listen. He didn't want to do things God's way, and many of us don't want to do things God's way either, and that results in death. But when we become obedient, when we become slaves to obedience and change from the inside out, that's when everything we do is different. Everything we do is not focused on ourselves, but it's focused on God. It's focused on obedience. The question we ask, instead of, what do I want to do today, is, Lord, what do you want me to do today? Consider that as you head into your lives this week. Instead of starting the day saying, what should I do? You say, Lord God, what should I do? Amen.